My name is Richard Bucciarelli, and I'm the Chief Sports Scientist with Best Athletes. I was a soccer player. I played in university, at York University, and also for 4 years in the Canadian Professional Soccer League. I studied kinesiology and sports science at York, and I was also a coach. I was doing those three things, working with some of the players that I was coaching. Their parents, they knew that I was studying sports science, and they said, well, my son needs to get faster. Will you stay on the field and train him? And I started doing that part-time. And then some coaches saw me doing that and said, well, my team needs to improve their fitness. Can you work with us, with our team? And eventually when I graduated, I decided to work full-time providing fitness training and testing and coach education and all these other things for soccer players and coaches. I worked with the Canadian women's national teams programs for a little while. With Toronto FC Academy for a little while. The latest higher level that I worked with was the Ottawa Fury in the USL. So I took, again, as many coaching courses and eventually coach licenses that I could. Kinesiology, there's a lot of different certifications and professional courses you can take. I took as many as I could. When I worked with the Toronto FC Academy, there's a player there whose father is a biomechanist and professor at the University of Guelph. And so when I met him and he was kind of interested in some of the stuff I was doing, he convinced me to go back to school. He was able to take me on as a PhD student. So all of this kind of stemmed from this sort of drive that once I decided that my career was going to be as a soccer coach and a soccer fitness coach, that I just wanted to literally just accumulate as much knowledge and as much experience as I could to be the best at it.
Is there anything or any advice that you received that's always stuck with you and that you continue on with?
There's a lot of things in sports that you can't control. You can't control your teammates. You can't control whatever it is, the weather, the referee, the opponents, but you can control how hard you work. And then of course there's aspects within that. You can control your fitness, you can control your attitude, focus all of your energy on the things that are under your control, and make sure that everything that is under your control, that you've done the best you possibly can.
So would you be able to talk a little bit about those assessments when athletes come to you and your business, and walk us through a little bit about those assessments that you run with the athlete?
We measured standing height, sitting height, and body weight. And from those three metrics, we were able to determine something called age of peak height velocity, which is basically, you can think of that as the developmental age of an athlete. Because if you have a group of athletes that are all in their teens, chronologically they're all the same age, but physiologically or developmentally they're not. So we did that. There were three different types of jump tests to test leg power, elasticity, and reactive strength or agility. We measured running speed over three different distances from 10 meters up to 35 meters to look at the different qualities that go into a sprint, initial acceleration, top end speed, etc. We did a repeated sprint test, which literally measures repeated sprint ability, or how well you can recover from a short set of fast sprints. So that protocol, again, was developed.
Do you have any advice when developing fitness goals?
One of the fundamental principles that I teach and that you need to learn is the principle of specificity. Essentially, the principle of specificity means that you achieve specific adaptations based on specific demands of training, and you can apply that to whatever goals you have as an athlete too. And so that means that the goals you have should be specific. Think back to maybe my experience working with coaches, even some of the coaches at the higher levels. They aren't always well informed. For example, you'll hear things like, I want to be more fit, I want to run faster, like that's not specific. Specific would be, I'd like to improve my VO2 max by 5 points, or I'd like to get to the standard female under 17 national team on these particular tests. And so the more specific that you make the goals that you set, then the easier it is to design a training program to achieve them.
How important do you think it is for athletes to be assessed?
Extremely important. Let's say athletes, they're participating in sports and they're participating in training. And the purpose of planning training is to try to improve performance. Speaking from the physical side, if you're planning training in order to try to improve performance, but you don't know the present level of your physical performance, then it is impossible to plan. Without testing, without establishing a baseline for where you are, you cannot plan training to optimize performance. For any athlete, Without conducting a test, you really don't know where you stand relative to your own competition or to the levels that you want to get to. And a one-size-fits-all approach does not work with athletes. Within any team, old, young, male, female, whatever, you're going to have a wide range of athletic abilities. It doesn't mean that someone who has strong, speed or power should never train for those things. That doesn't mean that. It means that the type of training they do, the amount of time they spend on it, the intensity, the recovery between sessions, those things have to be different. In order to start to get optimal results for each athlete, you need to customize the training for each athlete.
What advice can you give to athletes and parents who are trying to find that extra assistance and assessment?
You have to do your homework. You have to do your research. Anecdotal evidence exists everywhere. The way to determine whether a particular type of training actually led to a result is through research.